Hey, good morning. It's Friday, casual Friday for some of you. Going to share the verse of the day. It comes from the book of Proverbs. And most scholars agree the book of Proverbs was written by Solomon. And Solomon was pretty much one of the wisest men ever to live. So we're closing the work week with some sound advice from Solomon, okay? So Proverbs 10:17. Sorry, something was biting me on my feet. Proverbs 10:17 says, whoever heeds discipline shows the way to life, but whoever ignores correction leads others astray. So I'm going to paraphrase. So whoever heeds discipline, whoever's doing the right thing, right, is showing the way to life. But whoever ignores correction, whoever's doing the wrong thing, leads folks astray, leads others astray. A couple of things leapt at me when I read this verse this morning, and I'm going to share them. The first one is that we are always an example. We're always an example. We're always being watched. Whether you believe it or not, we are always on display. You've probably witnessed two people getting into this disagreement, altercation at work, and some other person comes up and says to one of them, man, you need to walk away. You need to be the bigger person right now. You need to set the example right now. Set a good example. Walk away. Be the bigger person, right? You've heard that. But the truth of the matter is that person doesn't decide to set the example, right? In that circumstance, I'm going to set the example and I'm going to do what's right. In actuality, we're always an example. You're an example, always. I am an example, always. So I'm an example of good things. Like when I do the right thing, I'm an example. But when I don't do the right thing, when I do the not so good thing, I'm also an example. At work, at home, I'm also an example. And sometimes, unfortunately, I could be the worst example. So sometimes we're good examples, sometimes not so good examples, and sometimes really bad examples, but we're always an example, right? We don't get to decide, oh, today I'm going to set the right example. No, you're an example every day, every hour that you're alive on this earth. You are an example. So that's the first point. And then the second point is even more interesting. The second point I saw was that it says when you're doing the right thing, the good thing, when you're heeding discipline, you're showing folks the way to life, right? That's truly an example. You're giving them examples, showing them the way to life. But then it says when you ignore correction, when you're doing the wrong thing, you're leading others astray. It's like, why didn't they use that verb, lead? Leading in the beginning when you're doing the good stuff. Why can't you lead people to be good? And I think what that means is people are always going to be inclined to follow your worst example, to follow the bad examples, because they need justification to do what's wrong. So they're going to be seeking and looking out just for the wrong times, right? When you made that mistake and you said that thing, right? Now you set the wrong example and you're leading people astray. So people are led more easily by our wrong examples, right? And I can give you an example. Like I can get pep talks all day long, at work from my boss, right? He's not going to pay me anymore, but he wants to give me some pep talks so he can motivate me maybe to put in like 10, 15 hours extra a week. Man, we're not going to pay you more, but this is like, it's going to be very personally rewarding. Like, you're part of this mission and we're doing some great things and all that. Like, he can say that to me all day long. I'm going to really resist. I'm going to resist because that's just my nature. I'm going to give you another example. My boss this week, he comes in 5 days late, every single day, an hour late. He hasn't said anything to me. He hasn't communicated anything to me. But this is what I get from that. Is in my mind, he's saying, hey, Jorge, come to my office. Come here to my office. I'm going to show you something. Hey, look, like me and the president and the VP, we signed this memorandum and I want you to read it. And like he reads it to me, and it's like, Jorge, next week, like for 5 days straight, you're okay to come in late. You are authorized to come in late. Go ahead and come in late the next 5 days, right? Although he hasn't said that, that's what he's leading me to do next week because of his actions this week, right? He put so much work into try to influence me to do the right things, to stay longer, right? To come in earlier and all that. That's going to be harder for me to copy and model. What's going to be easier for me is to, oh, you're doing that thing wrong? Okay, well, I'm doing that thing wrong. Oh, you're coming in jeans on a Monday? Guess what? I'm coming in jeans next Monday. Why is it that we're like that? You know, so that's the second takeaway. The first takeaway is just that we're always an example. We're always on display. And the second takeaway is that our wrong actions tend to lead people, where our right actions do lead people, but there's always a resistance there because it's always easier to do the wrong thing, right? So they're going to be led by your wrong examples. And you might be saying, well, you know, I'm not a boss over anybody. I'm not an influencer. And I would argue, no, everybody influences. No, but I'm at the bottom of the bottom. You know, I'm the lowest man on the totem pole. I'm the lowest man on the totem pole, right? Or like among my groups of friends, like I'm the only one that doesn't have a job. How am I influencing? Or among my peers, man, I'm the only one that's got no transportation. Or I'm the only single person. Or among my married peers, we're the only ones that don't have kids. You know, we can throw all that out there, but the fact of the matter is that you're always an influencer. So matter of fact, when does your true character come out? It comes out in your struggles. So when you are struggling, you're actually more on display, because that's when your true character comes out, is when you're fighting issues, fighting life struggles, right? When you don't have a job, but you know what? You're going to do the right things anyway. You are influencing in that peer group. They're not going to be influenced by what you have. They're going to be influenced by who you are. So I was a teacher for a little bit in an elementary school, and we had a principal, and she was very old school, but she was always saying, Mr. Jorge, remember, you teach what you know. You teach what you know, but you impart who you are. You impart who you are. So another thing I've heard said is that, you know, the gospel, like we need to preach the gospel in every corner, right? In every situation, we need to preach the gospel to everybody that we see. But then this person said, it might have been Billy Graham, he said, and when absolutely necessary, use words. In other words, we gotta, by our actions, set the example, right? So, you know, this weekend, the folks that you see today, this weekend, maybe they don't have a family to go home to. You know, your peers at work, maybe they don't have that many friends. Or maybe they came from another country. This is DC. I mean, they came from the West, you know, from California to work here, and they're by themselves. Maybe they don't go to a church and so on. So it could be that the Bible they get to read is you. You're their only opportunity to expose them to the gospel, and you don't have to preach. You just have to do what? You heed discipline. You show the way to life. So I want to leave you with that for Friday. Make sure you understand that you're always on display. Make sure that you know that people will follow you when you're doing the wrong thing more readily than when you're doing the right thing. And last, make sure you know that you're probably the only gospel message that person at work is going to hear ever. So have a good Friday. Peace. God bless you guys.